She saw him digging through the trash, barefoot, starving, and no older than 8. She didn't know his name. He never said a word, but something in his eyes broke her. So every single day, for 10 years, she left a warm meal for a child who never thanked her, never stayed, and never looked back. Then one day, he disappeared, gone without a trace. But 10 years later, a stranger walked into her cafe, holding something she never expected. What he said shattered her world, and what he became changed her life forever. This is a story you'll never forget. It was a cold Tuesday morning when Emily first saw him, a small, thin boy no older than 8, sitting beside the dumpster behind her cafe. His clothes were torn, his face smeared with dirt, and his eyes, they held the kind of sadness no child should ever carry. She paused, coffee pot in hand, watching from the back window as he picked through the garbage bags, searching for something to eat. Her heart clenched. This wasn't the first homeless person she'd seen in her small town, but this was different. He was just a child, alone, hungry, lost. Emily didn't hesitate. She wrapped up a fresh sandwich, poured a cup of warm milk, and stepped out into the icy air. When she approached him, he flinched, ready to run. "It's okay," she said softly. "You don't have to be afraid." He stared at her like he didn't understand. Slowly, she handed him the food. His small hands trembled as he took it, but he didn't say a word. He devoured the sandwich like he hadn't eaten in days. Emily didn't ask questions. She didn't press him for a name or a story. That day, all she wanted was to make sure he wasn't hungry. The next morning, he was there again, and again the day after. Each time, Emily had something ready. A sandwich, a cup of soup, a piece of fruit. The boy never spoke. He would take the food, nod slightly, and disappear into the city. But Emily noticed the way his eyes softened over time, how his shoulders lowered just a little when he saw her. It became a silent ritual. Every morning before opening the cafe, she'd prepare an extra meal. She didn't know where he slept or what his name was, but she knew he would be there, waiting, watching, surviving. Months turned into years. The seasons changed. People came and went, but the boy remained. He grew taller. His hair got longer. Still thin, still silent, but always there. Emily never stopped feeding him. She never asked why he was homeless. She never judged. Deep inside, she knew there was a story, a wound, a reason for the silence. And she wasn't there to fix him. She was there to feed him, to show him, in her own quiet way, that someone in the world still cared. Over time, she started leaving small notes with his food. Simple things. "You matter. Stay strong. You are not invisible." She never knew if he read them. He never acknowledged them. But she kept writing, because she believed that even if he never said a word, maybe the words were reaching him anyway. Maybe they were planting something in that quiet, broken soul. Hope, or at least a spark of it. Emily's life wasn't glamorous. She worked long hours, lived alone. She'd lost her parents years ago and had no siblings. Her cafe was her world, and in a strange way, so was the boy. He became part of her routine, her rhythm, her reason to wake up early and prepare that one extra meal. She began to look forward to seeing him, even if he never smiled, even if he never spoke. His presence reminded her that kindness still mattered, that even the smallest acts could become lifelines for someone in the shadows. Then one morning, he didn't come. Emily waited by the back door longer than usual, food in hand, eyes scanning the alley. But the spot was empty. No small frame, no hungry eyes, nothing but cold wind and silence. She told herself he was probably okay. Maybe he found shelter. Maybe someone helped him. Maybe, but the maybe gnawed at her. Days passed. Then a week. The food started to rot untouched. Her heart sank with every sunrise. The silence felt heavier than ever. She worried like a mother would, though she never called herself that. She didn't know his name, but somehow he had become family. A month went by. Still no sign. Emily kept feeding the homeless in the area, but it wasn't the same. That bond, silent, strange, sacred, was gone. She tried to let go, but part of her still looked out the window every morning, hoping. That hope was a quiet ache she never admitted out loud. The boy had disappeared, and with him, a piece of her heart. 10 years passed. The cafe aged with her. Her hair grayed at the edges. The counter creaked. Business slowed. But she never stopped making that extra sandwich. Every single day, for 10 years, she packed it. Just in case. She told herself it was for any hungry soul. But in truth, it was always for him. Then one ordinary Thursday afternoon, the bell above the cafe door rang. Emily looked up from the register, expecting a regular customer. But standing in the doorway was a tall man, maybe in his late teens or early 20s. Clean clothes, sharp eyes, a strange familiarity in his expression. He stepped inside, slowly, like he wasn't sure if he should be there. Emily smiled politely. "Hi there, what can I get you?" The young man hesitated, then reached into his jacket and pulled out something small, a folded, yellowing note. Her handwriting, one of the notes she used to leave. He placed it on the counter and looked into her eyes. "You fed me for 10 years, he said, voice barely steady. "You saved my life. And now, I want to tell you everything." Emily stood frozen behind the counter, the faded note in her hand trembling as the young man's words echoed in her ears. "You fed me for 10 years. You saved my life." Her breath caught. She searched his face, older now, stronger, but still carrying that same quiet pain in his eyes. It was him, the boy, her boy. 10 years of silence, 10 years of wondering, of hoping, and now, he was here, standing in front of her, not broken, not lost, but alive, whole, and finally ready to speak. "I never said thank you," he said softly, voice laced with guilt and emotion. "I didn't know how. I was ashamed and afraid. But I never forgot you. Not for a single day." Emily's heart swelled, tears pooling in her eyes. She stepped around the counter slowly and reached out, hesitant at first, unsure if the moment was real. When her hand touched his, it was warm, solid, grounding. "You don't have to say anything," she whispered. "You're here. That's more than enough." But he shook his head. "No, I need to tell you. You deserve to know everything." They sat down at a corner table, the same one where lonely customers used to sit for hours sipping coffee and staring out the window. The cafe was quiet now, the lunch rush long gone. The world outside moved on, but in that small space, time stood still. "My name is Daniel," he began, eyes fixed on the table. "I was 8 when I ended up on the streets. My mom, she was sick, really sick. She used to work 2 jobs just to keep the lights on. But then the cancer got worse. She tried to hide it, but I saw her getting weaker. One day, she didn't wake up. Just like that, she was gone. I was left alone. No family. No one came for me. I ran before anyone could put me in a shelter or a system I didn't trust. I thought I'd be better off hiding, surviving." Emily listened, her hands clasped tightly, her heart aching with every word. "I didn't know what I was doing," Daniel continued. "I was scared, hungry all the time. Then one day, I found your cafe. I saw the trash bins and thought maybe I'd find something to eat. I didn't expect anyone to see me, but you did. And you didn't yell. You didn't send me away. You gave me food, real food. And more than that, you gave me hope. Every day you came out with a meal, without asking anything in return. No questions, no judgment, just kindness." His voice cracked, but he didn't stop. "You became my anchor, Emily. Your food, your notes, they kept me alive. When it got too hard, when I thought about giving up, I'd remember your words. You matter." I repeated that to myself like a prayer. Emily's tears now flowed freely, silently. She had never imagined her small acts had meant that much. "But then one winter," Daniel said, "I got sick, really sick. I passed out in a park and woke up in a hospital. Someone had called emergency services. I don't know who, but they ran my fingerprints and finally traced me. I was placed in a group home. At first, I fought it. I wanted to run again. But something told me stay. Give it a chance. Maybe this was the second chance you always hoped for me." He paused and looked directly into her eyes. "I stayed. I went to school. I worked hard. And I never stopped thinking about you. That's why I kept your notes. I carried them with me everywhere. I told myself that one day I'd come back. And when I did, I'd come back not as the broken boy you fed, but as a man you could be proud of. Emily reached out, touching his hand again. Daniel, I was already proud of you. Every single day, even when I didn't know where you were. Daniel smiled through the tears. I wanted to do more than just say thank you. So I worked harder. I earned scholarships. I got accepted into university, full ride. I'm studying social work now because I want to help kids like me. Kids who fall through the cracks. Kids who need someone like you. Emily was speechless. This boy she had fed for 10 years, was now building a life not just for himself, but for others. Because of a sandwich. Because of warm milk. Because of a few kind words scribbled on torn paper. It all mattered. Every bit of it. He reached into his bag and pulled out a small photo. I wanted you to have this, he said, handing it to her. It was a picture of him at his college, standing with other students, holding a banner that read, "From surviving to thriving, every child matters." Her name was written in the corner in black marker, inspired by Emily. Her hands trembled as she held it. She couldn't stop the sob that escaped her lips. All these years, she had wondered if he'd made it, if he'd survived, if he ever thought of her. And now here he was, not only alive, but thriving, giving back, changing lives. Daniel looked around the cafe, at the faded walls and old wooden chairs. I know it's not easy running this place, he said, and I know you've done it all on your own. So I've been saving, working part-time jobs. Scholarships help with my tuition, but I've been putting money aside too. Emily raised an eyebrow. What are you talking about? I want to help, he said. I want to renovate the cafe, turn it into something bigger, a place where no child has to be hungry, a safe space for kids like I once was. We'll call it Emily's Place. A cafe by day and a free meal center by night. Emily's heart skipped a beat. She couldn't believe what she was hearing. I'm not asking you to do this alone, he said firmly. I'm asking to do it with you. For every child who's hungry. For every lost soul that needs a little kindness. Just like you gave me. The cafe was silent again. But this time it wasn't empty. It was full of something powerful. Purpose. Legacy. A bond that had come full circle. Emily stood up, walked over to him, and wrapped her arms around him. Yes, she whispered. Yes, Daniel. Let's do it. Together. Emily held Daniel tightly, her arms wrapped around the boy who once stood shivering by her dumpster and now stood before her as a man with a vision. Her cafe, the place where she quietly served kindness for decades, was about to become something far greater. Let's do it. Together, she whispered, voice thick with emotion. And with that promise, their new journey began. Word spread faster than either of them expected. When Daniel returned to his university, he began organizing a fundraiser, sharing his story openly for the first time. He spoke on campus, posted videos online, and within days, the story of the woman who fed me for 10 years went viral. People from all over the country were moved by the tale of silent compassion, of a woman who asked for nothing but gave everything. Donations started pouring in, small ones at first, then larger contributions from people who had once been homeless, mothers who had lost children, strangers who simply believed in kindness. Back in town, Emily watched in stunned disbelief as the numbers rose. The cafe's dusty donation jar was replaced with an online campaign that raised thousands within weeks. Local news stations showed up. Reporters wanted interviews. Customers who hadn't visited in years returned, some with tears in their eyes. One woman came in and said, "You gave my brother meals when no one else would. I never forgot that." Emily hadn't even known. Daniel returned on weekends, helping her reorganize the space. They cleared out old furniture, sanded worn wood, and painted the walls bright, hopeful colors. A new sign was made. Emily's Place, where no one eats alone. But it wasn't just a name, it was a mission. The back of the cafe was transformed into a warm, inviting space with soft chairs, shelves of books, a corner with toys, and a table where hot meals would always be available, no questions asked. The grand reopening was held on a rainy Sunday morning. Dozens gathered despite the weather. Umbrellas lined the sidewalk, and people waited quietly until Emily stepped outside with Daniel beside her. She didn't have a speech prepared. She didn't need one. She simply looked out at the crowd, her eyes filled with quiet gratitude, and said, "This place was never about coffee or sandwiches. It was always about people. I'm just glad I get to keep doing what I love with all of you." Applause erupted, not because she was flashy or loud, but because she was real, genuine. Her story had reminded people that kindness isn't about grand gestures. It's about consistency, about doing the right thing when no one's watching. That night, the cafe stayed open late. Families came. Homeless teenagers arrived, unsure at first, then slowly drawn in by the warmth of the place. Volunteers handed out bowls of soup, warm blankets, even hugs. Daniel sat at the back, speaking softly to a group of boys who reminded him of his younger self. He saw the same guarded eyes, the same hesitation. And so, he told them his story, not as a lecture, but as proof that they too could make it out. Months passed. Emily's place became more than just a cafe. It became a sanctuary. Daniel returned full-time after graduation, officially joining her as a partner. They hosted weekly community dinners, mentoring programs, and even free tutoring sessions. They didn't just feed bodies, they fed souls. Lives quietly changed under their roof. A girl who once stole bread from the counter was now helping serve meals. A boy who refused to speak was now laughing during story time. And every single time someone new walked in, Emily greeted them the same way. "Welcome. We're glad you're here." One evening, as they closed up shop, Daniel stood by the window, watching the streetlights flicker. Emily was wiping down the counter, humming softly. "Do you ever wonder," he asked, "what would have happened if you hadn't come outside that day? If you hadn't given me that sandwich?" Emily looked up, her eyes gentle. "Every day, and every day, I thank God that I did." He nodded, swallowing a lump in his throat. "You changed my life, and because of that, you've changed hundreds more." She smiled. "No, you changed your life, Daniel. I just gave you a meal. You did the rest." He walked over and placed something on the counter. It was a small wooden box, handcrafted, polished, with her name engraved on top. Inside, neatly arranged, were all the notes she had written him over those 10 years. Yellowed with age, edges worn, but still legible. "I kept them all," he said. "They were my map when I was lost." Emily picked one up. It read, "You are not invisible." Her hands trembled as she held it. "I never thought these would matter this much." They mattered more than you'll ever know. That night, she placed the box on the shelf behind the counter where everyone could see it. Visitors would come in, ask about it, and she'd tell them the story. Not to brag, but to remind them that words and kindness can save a life. Years went by. The cafe continued to grow. New volunteers joined. New stories were written. But one thing remained the same, the quiet power of one act of compassion. One woman feeding a hungry child, not knowing that someday he'd return, not just to say thank you, but to change her life forever. And he did, in every way possible. He brought her a purpose even deeper than she had known. He reminded her that her life, once quiet and lonely, was now echoed in the laughter of children, the gratitude of strangers, and the unspoken bond between two people who had found family in each other. Emily had once given without expecting anything in return, but life had a way of circling back, and when it did, it returned not just the boy she'd fed, but a legacy that would live on for generations. Because sometimes, feeding one hungry child changes everything. Years passed, but Emily's place never lost its soul. The walls, once old and faded, now held the warmth of thousands of memories. Laughter echoed daily. The smell of fresh bread, soup, and hope lingered in the air. Children who had once come in shivering and silent were now confident, smiling, full of life. Volunteers became mentors. Regulars became family. And Emily, she remained the quiet force behind it all. Daniel never left. He grew from a broken boy into a respected man, not just known for his story, but for how he gave back. He led outreach programs, helped homeless teens find shelter, and guided others who were where he once had been. But no matter how much the world praised him, he never let go of what mattered most to her. Emily aged, slowly, gently. Her steps became softer, her hands more wrinkled, but her spirit never dimmed. Each morning, she opened the cafe doors. Each night, she made sure no one left hungry. She still left handwritten notes for those who needed them, just like she once did for Daniel. And every time someone asked her why she did it, her answer was always the same: because someone has to care first. Then, one quiet winter evening, after a long day of service, Emily sat by the window, watching snow fall over the town she had given her life to. Daniel sat across from her, hands wrapped around a cup of tea. There were no crowds, no speeches, no noise, just peace. She looked at him with soft eyes. "You know, when I fed you that first sandwich, I didn't expect anything. I just couldn't let you starve." Daniel nodded, tears quietly forming. "And because of that, you gave me a life." She smiled faintly. "No, I gave you food. You turned it into something beautiful." That night, Emily passed peacefully in her sleep. No pain, no struggle, just a quiet end to a life that had touched countless others. In the morning, Daniel found her handwritten note on the counter, her last one. It read, "Keep going. They still need you." He framed it. The cafe stayed open, stronger than ever. Daniel renamed it Emily's Legacy. Her picture hung above the register, smiling gently, holding a tray of warm bread. And every time a hungry child walked in, they were fed. No questions asked. Because one woman chose to care when no one else did, thousands were saved. And one broken boy, fed in silence for 10 years, became the voice for all the others still waiting. She fed a hungry child and changed the world.